Blood wasn't what terrified the ER that night. It was the man still fighting while dying. 3 bullets, chest, shoulder, abdomen. Each one should have dropped him cold. But the patient on the gurney wasn't screaming, wasn't begging. His eyes, gray, cold, methodical, swept the room like he was mapping exits, counting threats, calculating odds. Strapped down, soaked in his own blood, he moved like a predator in a cage. The security guard backing toward the wall wasn't panicking because of the wounds. He was panicking because every instinct in his body screamed that the dying man on that table could still kill everyone in the room. At Blackridge Medical Center in Denver, Nurse Lena Cross had seen gunshot victims before. She'd seen tough guys, gang members, even cops who refused to show pain. But this? This was different. This was a man who'd forgotten how to be afraid. If you want to see how a single nurse dismantles a military conspiracy, stay until the end. Drop a comment with your city so I know how far this story has traveled. The doors to Trauma Bay 3 slammed open at 11:47 p.m., and the chaos poured in like a flood. Male, early 30s, GSWs times 3, BP dropping, pulse thready. Move, move, move. Lena stepped back as the gurney rocketed past, paramedics shouting vitals over each other. Doctor. Kevin Halford was already barking orders, gloves snapping on, his face set in that grim mask he wore when things were bad. She caught a glimpse of the patient as they hauled him onto the table. Broad shoulders, buzz cut, tattoos running down both forearms, military ink, the kind you didn't get at a mall kiosk. His shirt had been cut away, revealing entry wounds that wept dark red across pale skin. But it was his eyes that stuck with her. Open, aware, tracking. Most people in his condition were unconscious or delirious. This man looked like he was taking inventory. Lena, get a line in him, now, Halford snapped. She moved without thinking, muscle memory taking over. IV kit, tourniquet, alcohol swab. His arm was corded with muscle, veins standing out clear. Easy stick. Except when she touched his wrist, he flinched. Not in pain, in readiness. His hand twitched toward hers, fingers curling like he was about to grab her, and she saw it in his eyes, the split-second decision to attack or comply. Then he went still. She slid the needle in, taped it down, hung the saline. "You're okay," she said quietly. "We've got you." His lips moved, barely a whisper. "No, you don't." Before she could respond, Halford was shoving past her, pressing gauze into the chest wound. "Where's the blood? I need ONEG, 2 units, stat." Lena turned to grab the cooler, and that's when she noticed the men in suits. 2 of them, standing just outside the trauma bay, not moving, not helping, just watching. One was older, silver-haired, with the kind of face that had spent decades telling people no. The other was younger, built like a linebacker, earpiece visible, hand resting near his hip. Federal agents. Had to be. But they didn't look concerned. They looked like they were waiting for something. "Lena!" Halford's voice cracked like a whip. She snapped back, handed him the blood, then moved to the patient's other side to cut away the rest of his clothes. Standard protocol. Check for secondary injuries, hidden wounds, anything the paramedics might have missed. That's when she saw the scars. Old ones. Surgical. Precise. Running along his ribs, across his abdomen, up near his collarbone. These weren't accidents. These were the kind of scars you got from field medicine, from combat surgeries done under fire, from a life spent getting stitched back together and sent back out. Her breath caught. She knew those scars. She'd seen them in photographs. The gurney jolted as the patient convulsed, and suddenly he was moving, hands ripping free from the restraints, grabbing at Halford's wrist with terrifying speed. "Hold him down!" Halford yelled. Security surged forward, but the patient twisted, one arm locking around the nearest guard's throat in a chokehold that dropped the man to his knees in seconds. Lena stumbled back, heart hammering. The other guards piled on, wrestling him flat, and someone was screaming for sedation. And then the patient's hand shot out and grabbed a scalpel from the tray. The room went silent. He held it like a weapon, blade reversed, ready to slash. Blood dripped from his arm where the IV had torn free. His chest heaved, eyes wild but focused, scanning faces, looking for the real threat. Halford raised both hands. "Easy, easy. We're here to help." "Bullshit," the man rasped. His gaze flicked to the agents in the doorway. "You're here to bury me." The older agent stepped forward, voice calm, controlled. "Stand down, soldier." The patient's grip tightened on the scalpel. "I'm not your soldier anymore." Lena's mind was racing. She should back away, call for more security, let the professionals handle this. But something in the way he moved, the way he held himself, even while bleeding out, it wasn't random violence. It was trained, controlled, defensive, and those scars. She stepped forward before she could stop herself. "Lena, get back, Sulfurkuk," Halford started. She ignored him, moving slowly, hands visible, non-threatening. The patient's eyes snapped to her, and for a moment she thought he'd lunge. Instead, she spoke. Quiet, clear. "Ghost, status check." The scalpel trembled. His eyes widened, just a fraction, and something behind them cracked. Recognition, confusion. Then something that looked almost like grief. The blade clattered to the floor. He collapsed back onto the table, shaking, and Lena grabbed the sedative syringe from the tray and slid it into his IV port before anyone could stop her. Within seconds, his eyes rolled back and his body went slack. The room exhaled. Halford stared at her. "What the hell was that?" Lena didn't answer. She couldn't, because her hands were shaking and her brother's voice was echoing in her head, the last voicemail he'd ever left 6 years ago, drunk and rambling about code names and missions and things he wasn't supposed to tell her. Ghost. That's what they call him. "If you ever hear that name, Lena, you run." She looked down at the man on the table, unconscious now, blood pooling beneath him. And she knew. This was Ryan Vance. The soldier declared KIA in a training accident, the last man seen with her brother before the convoy exploded. The man who wasn't supposed to exist. "Get him stable," Halford ordered, already moving to close the chest wound. "Lena, prep for surgery." "No." The older agent stepped into the bay, flashing credentials. "This patient is under federal jurisdiction. We'll take it from here." Halford's jaw tightened. He's in critical condition. He needs to be transferred. Immediately. The agent's tone left no room for argument. "Clear the room." Lena felt her stomach drop. "You can't move him. He'll die." The agent's eyes were flat, emotionless. "That's not your concern, Miss Cross." He knew her name. She glanced at the younger agent who was already moving toward the gurney, and something cold slithered down her spine. They weren't here to save him. They were here to make sure he didn't talk. Halford looked between them, clearly torn, then exhaled sharply. "Fine. But he's stable first, or I'm reporting this to the board." The agent nodded, a thin smile on his lips. "Of course, doctor." But his eyes stayed on Lena. She backed toward the door, pulse hammering, mind racing. She needed to think, needed to figure out what the hell was happening. Because if Ryan Vance was alive, if he was here, shot and hunted, then everything she'd been told about her brother's death was a lie. And someone very powerful wanted to keep it that way. Lena didn't go home that night. She should have. Her shift was over. She was exhausted, running on fumes and bad coffee. But instead, she found herself in the nurse's lounge, door locked, laptop open, searching. Ryan Vance, KIA, training accident, 2018. The official report was short, sterile. A convoy hit an IED during a routine exercise in Nevada. 4 casualties, including Staff Sergeant Ryan Vance and Corporal Marcus Cross. Her brother. She'd read it 1,000 times, memorized every line, tried to find meaning in the bureaucratic language, in the empty condolences, in the folded flag they'd handed her mother at the funeral. But now, staring at the screen, all she could think was, training accident. Who the hell gets shot 3 times in a training accident? A knock on the door made her jump. "Lena, you in there?" Halford's voice. She closed the laptop, unlocked the door. He stepped in, looking tired and pissed off. "They took him." "What?" "The feds. Soon as we got him stable, they rolled him out. Didn't even wait for the paperwork." He scrubbed a hand over his face. "I've been doing this for 20 years. Never seen anything like it." Lena's throat tightened. "Where'd they take him?" "Didn't say, wouldn't say." He looked at her, eyes sharp. "What was that, Lena? That thing you said to him?" "Ghost." She hesitated. I don't know. It just came out." He didn't believe her. She could see it in the way his jaw worked, the way he studied her face, but he didn't push. If you're in trouble, I'm not. Lena. She met his gaze. I'm not. He held her eyes for a long moment, then nodded slowly. All right, but whatever that was, be careful. He left. Lena sat in the silence, hands trembling. Then she pulled out her phone and scrolled through her contacts until she found the one number she'd never called, Lieutenant Colonel Davies, her brother's former CO. The man who'd signed the death certificate, the man who'd looked her in the eye at the funeral and said, Marcus died serving his country. She hit dial. It rang. Once, twice. This number is no longer in service. She tried again. Same result. Her chest tightened. She pulled up the laptop again, searched for Davies. His name came up in a dozen military databases, commendations, promotions. And then, 3 months ago, early retirement. No explanation. No ceremony. Just gone. Lena's hands were shaking now, adrenaline flooding her system. Something was very, very wrong. She grabbed her jacket and headed for the parking lot, mind racing. She needed answers, needed to find out where they'd taken Ryan, what they were planning. The black SUV was waiting by her car. She froze. The rear door opened, and the older agent stepped out, hands in his pockets, expression polite. Miss Cross, we need to talk. Every instinct screamed at her to run, but she forced herself to stay calm, forced her voice steady. About what? About what you saw tonight. He stepped closer, and she noticed the younger agent standing near the front of the vehicle, hand resting casually on his holster. And more importantly, about what you're going to forget. Lena's pulse hammered. I'm a nurse. I see patients every night. Not like him. The agent's smile didn't reach his eyes. Ryan Vance doesn't exist, Miss Cross. He died 6 years ago. Whatever you think you saw, I saw a man shot 3 times and fighting like he was trained to kill. The smile faded. Exactly. Which is why you're going to go home, get some sleep, and when you wake up tomorrow, you're going to remember that tonight was quiet. No gunshot victims, no federal agents, nothing out of the ordinary. She stared at him. And if I don't? Then we'll have to discuss your brother's service record. The words hit like a punch. Marcus was a hero, the agent continued, voice soft, almost sympathetic. Died in the line of duty. Honorable discharge. Full benefits to your mother. It would be a shame if new information came to light. Information that suggested complications, misconduct, the kind of thing that could revoke those benefits. Lena's hands curled into fists. You're threatening me. I'm protecting you. He stepped back toward the SUV. Go home, Miss Cross. Forget tonight. It's better for everyone. The door closed, and the vehicle pulled away, leaving her standing alone in the parking lot, rage and terror warring in her chest. But beneath it all, one thought burned clear and cold. They're lying. She didn't sleep. Instead, she drove to her mother's house, the small 2-bedroom rental on the east side where she'd grown up, where Marcus's medals still hung on the wall and his photo smiled from the mantel. Her mother was asleep, the TV flickering in the living room. Lena slipped past into Marcus's old room, the one her mom had left untouched, like a shrine. She opened the closet, pulled down the boxes of his things. Letters, photos, deployment records. And then, at the bottom, wrapped in an old t-shirt, his personal journal. She'd never read it before. It felt like a violation, like prying into something sacred. But tonight, she didn't care. She flipped through the pages, scanning entries about training, deployments, the boredom of base life. And then, 3 months before he died, the tone shifted. Something's wrong. Davies is moving money, equipment, people off the books. Vance thinks it's trafficking, maybe worse. We're digging, but quietly. If we're right, this goes all the way up. Lena's breath hitched. 2 weeks later. Vance found proof, encrypted files. He's making a copy, hiding it somewhere safe. Says if anything happens to him, someone needs to know. I told him he's paranoid, but I'm starting to think he's right. The final entry, dated the day before the convoy. Tomorrow's the mission. Feels wrong. Davies is sending us out alone, no backup. Vance says it's a setup. I don't know. Maybe we're both just tired. If you're reading this, Lena, and I'm gone, Find Vance. He'll tell you the truth. The journal slipped from her hands. Marcus knew. He knew they were in danger, and he'd tried to tell her. She thought of Ryan Vance, strapped to that gurney, fighting even while dying. You've got his eyes. Her phone buzzed. Unknown number. She answered, hand shaking. Hello? Silence. Then a voice. Ragged. Familiar. Lena Cross? Her heart stopped. Ryan? They're coming for you. His breath was labored, pained. Whatever you know, burn it. Run. Don't trust anyone. Where are you? Doesn't matter. They'll find me. But you can still get out. No. Her voice was steel. Not until you tell me what happened to Marcus. A long pause, then quiet. There was no accident. The words shattered something inside her. We were set up, Ryan continued, voice breaking. Ambushed. They wanted us dead. Wanted to bury what we found. Who? Davies. And everyone above him, the whole damn chain. Then why are you still alive? A bitter laugh. Because I'm good at not dying, but it won't last. They've been hunting me for 6 years, and they're close now. Where are you? She repeated. Lena, where? Another pause, then coordinates. An address on the outskirts of Denver, some abandoned industrial zone. Don't come alone, he said. Don't come at all. Just... The line went dead. Lena stared at her phone, chest heaving. She should call the police, the FBI, someone. But the agents tonight had been federal. And if Ryan was right, if this went all the way up, then there was no one to trust. No one except her. She grabbed her keys and ran. The warehouse was exactly where he'd said it would be. A crumbling concrete shell at the edge of the industrial district, windows shattered, graffiti crawling up the walls. Lena parked 2 blocks away and approached on foot, every nerve screaming at her to turn back. The door was ajar. She slipped inside, flashlight sweeping the dark. Ryan? No answer. She moved deeper, past rusted machinery and rotting pallets, and then she saw him. Slumped against the far wall, pale and sweating, one hand pressed to his abdomen where blood seeped between his fingers. The bandages from the hospital were soaked through. You came, he rasped. Stupid. Yeah, well. She dropped to her knees beside him, pulling out the first aid kit she'd grabbed from the hospital. I'm good at stupid. He almost smiled. Marcus said that about you. Her hands stilled. You knew him. Best friend I ever had. His voice cracked. And I got him killed. No! She pressed gauze to the wound, and he hissed. They got him killed. Same thing. It's not. She worked quickly, redressing the wound, checking his vitals. His pulse was weak, skin clammy. He needed a hospital, but that wasn't an option. Why didn't you come forward? She asked quietly. After the ambush, why hide? Because they didn't just want us dead, they wanted us erased. He leaned his head back, eyes closing. And if I surfaced, they'd finish the job. But more than that, they'd go after anyone who knew, anyone who helped. My family. He nodded. I've been running ever since. New name, new face, new life every few months. But they found me 3 days ago, shot me, left me for dead. His eyes opened, gray and haunted. Should have finished the job. Then why are you still here? He looked at her, and something in his expression shifted. Because I'm tired, Lena. Tired of running. Tired of hiding. And when I saw you tonight, when you said that word, he trailed off. Marcus told me once, if anything happened, you'd know what to do. That you were tougher than you looked. He was wrong. No. Ryan reached out, grabbed her wrist with surprising strength. He wasn't. Footsteps echoed outside. Lena's blood went cold. Ryan's eyes sharpened, and he grabbed her arm, pulling her close. There's a file. Encrypted. Hidden in a dead drop in Silvergate City. Evidence of everything, trafficking, embezzlement, murders. Enough to burn them all. Then why haven't you used it? Because I'm one man, one ghost. They'd bury it. Bury me, and nothing would change. He pressed something into her hand, a small flash drive. But you're a civilian, a victim. You have a voice. Ryan, get the file. Go public. Burn them, Lena. For Marcus. The footsteps were closer now. He shoved her toward the back exit. Go. Now. I'm not leaving you. Go! The front door exploded inward and gunfire erupted. Lena ran. She burst through the back exit, lungs burning, legs pumping, the sound of gunfire chasing her into the night. She didn't stop until she reached her car, didn't breathe until she was speeding down the highway, hands white-knuckled on the wheel. Behind her, the warehouse burned, and Ryan Vance, the ghost, bought her time with his life. Or so she thought. Because 2 days later, when she finally worked up the courage to check the news, the headline made her blood run cold. Federal agents killed in warehouse shootout. Suspect at large. No mention of Ryan's name, no bodies recovered. Just a manhunt. And a warning. Lena stared at the flash drive in her hand, then at the coordinates Ryan had whispered. Silvergate City. She had a choice. Run, hide, forget, or fight. She thought of Marcus, of Ryan, of every lie she'd been told, and she started packing. Silvergate City rose from the desert like a monument to money and power, glass towers catching the late afternoon sun, casting long shadows across streets where Lena didn't belong. She'd driven 12 hours straight, stopping only for gas and bad coffee, the flash drive burning a hole in her pocket like a live grenade. The coordinates Ryan had given her pointed to an address in the warehouse district, another abandoned building, another risk she had no business taking, but she was done playing it safe. The building was a 3-story concrete box wedged between a shipping depot and a rail yard, windows boarded, chain-link fence sagging around the perimeter. She parked a block away and sat in the car for 10 minutes, watching for movement, for surveillance, for any sign this was a trap. Nothing. She grabbed the small backpack she'd packed, water, granola bars, a flashlight, and the taser she'd bought at a truck stop outside Boulder. It felt ridiculous in her hand, a toy compared to the guns those agents had carried, but it was something. The fence had a gap near the back corner, wide enough to slip through. She did, wincing as rust scraped her jacket, then moved quickly to the loading dock. The door was locked, but the window beside it had a broken latch. Inside, the air smelled like oil and decay. Her flashlight beam cut through the darkness, illuminating empty crates, broken pallets, graffiti that looked a decade old. Ryan's coordinates led her to the basement. She found the stairs behind a rusted door, descending into deeper darkness, each step creaking under her weight. The temperature dropped. Her breath misted. At the bottom, the flashlight caught a metal locker bolted to the far wall. No lock, no markings. She pulled it open. Inside, taped to the back panel, was a small black case. Her hands shook as she pried it loose, popped the latch. Inside, nestled in foam, was a second flash drive, identical to the one Ryan had given her, and a handwritten note. If you're reading this, I'm dead or close to it. The drives are identical. Keep one, hide one. Trust no one. The file is encrypted. Password is Marcus's service number. Good luck. RV. Lena's throat tightened. She pocketed both drives, then turned to leave. Footsteps echoed above. She froze, heart hammering, voices, low, multiple. Check the basement. She killed the flashlight, plunging herself into absolute darkness, and pressed against the wall beside the stairs. Her hand found the taser, thumb on the trigger, and she waited. A beam of light swept down the stairwell. Boots on metal, slow, methodical. The beam reached the bottom step, then swung across the room. It passed within inches of her face. "Clear!" the voice called up. The footsteps retreated. Lena didn't move, didn't breathe. She counted to 60, then to 60 again, before risking the flashlight. The basement was empty. She climbed the stairs on legs that felt like water, every nerve screaming, and emerged into the main floor to find it still deserted. But through the broken window, she saw them, 2 men in dark suits, walking the perimeter, radios crackling. They were sweeping the area, looking for someone, looking for her. She slipped out the way she came, moving fast but quiet, and didn't stop until she was back in her car, engine roaring to life, tires screeching as she peeled away from the curb. 3 blocks later, a black SUV pulled out behind her. Her stomach dropped. She took a hard right, then another, weaving through side streets. But the SUV stayed close, matching every turn. Her hands were slick on the wheel, mind racing. She couldn't outrun them, couldn't outfight them, but she could outlast them. She gunned the engine, blowing through a red light, and took a sharp left into a shopping district crowded with evening traffic. The SUV followed, but slower now, hemmed in by cars and pedestrians. Lena spotted a parking garage, yanked the wheel, and dove into the entrance. She spiraled up 3 levels, parked between 2 vans, killed the engine, and waited. The SUV didn't follow. She sat in the silence, sweat cooling on her skin, and pulled out her phone. No signal. The garage was a dead zone. Perfect. She climbed out, grabbed her backpack, and took the stairs down to street level, emerging 2 blocks away from where she'd entered. The SUV was gone. For now, she needed somewhere safe, somewhere off the grid, somewhere they wouldn't think to look. Her phone buzzed as the signal returned, a text from an unknown number. Motel 6, Route 34, Room 12. Come alone. RV. Lena stared at the screen. Ryan was alive. Or someone wanted her to think he was. She almost deleted it. Almost kept driving. But the alternative was running blind, and she'd never been good at running. She found the motel 40 minutes later, a sagging strip of rooms painted the color of old mustard, neon sign flickering against the twilight. Room 12 was on the end, curtains drawn. She parked where she could see the door, grabbed the taser, and approached. Knocked twice. The door opened a crack and Ryan's face appeared, paler than before, eyes shadowed, but alive. Get in. She slipped inside and he locked the door behind her, chain and deadbolt both. The room smelled like antiseptic and sweat. Bandages covered his torso, stained dark in places, and he moved like every step hurt. You're supposed to be dead, she said. Yeah, well. He sank onto the bed, wincing. I'm working on it. The news says what they're told. He gestured to the TV, muted but showing footage of the warehouse, now a smoking shell. They killed 2 of their own agents and blamed me. Classic. Lena felt sick. Why? To justify the manhunt, to make sure no one questions it when they put a bullet in me. He looked at her, eyes hard. Did you get the file? She pulled out both flash drives. Got 2. A flicker of relief crossed his face. Good. Keep them separated. If they find one, they won't. They will. He leaned back, closing his eyes. They always do, but maybe by then you'll have already used it. Used it how? I can't just walk into a police station with this. They'll bury it. Bury me! Then don't go to the police. He opened his eyes. Go to the press. Someone big. Someone who can't be silenced. Like who? I don't know. You're the one still breathing free air. Figure it out. His tone was sharp, bitter, and she bristled. I didn't ask for this. Neither did Marcus. The words landed like a slap. She stood, shoving the drives into her pocket. If you're just going to... Wait. His voice softened. I'm sorry. I'm just tired. And you showing up here, risking your life for a dead man's crusade? He shook his head. You're braver than I thought. I'm not brave. I'm pissed off. He almost smiled. Good. Use that. She sat back down, exhaustion settling over her like a weight. What's on the file, Ryan? What did you and Marcus find? He was quiet for a long moment, then exhaled slowly. Everything. Manifests for weapons shipments that never reached their destination. Financial records showing millions funneled into offshore accounts. Communications between Davies and contractors linked to arms dealers, drug cartels, mercenaries. He met her eyes. They weren't just stealing, they were selling. Guns, intel, access. To anyone with enough cash. Lena's hands clenched, and Marcus found proof. We both did. Took us months. We were careful, coded everything, hid copies in 3 locations, but someone talked. Someone tipped Davies off. His jaw tightened. The convoy wasn't a mission, it was an execution. But you survived. I got lucky, saw the ambush coming, bailed before the IED hit, but Marcus, his voice broke. I tried to pull him out, but the fire, the smoke, I couldn't reach him. Lena's vision blurred. She blinked hard, refusing to cry. I'm sorry, Ryan whispered. Don't. She stood again, pacing. Don't apologize. Just help me finish this. I am, by staying out of your way. He gestured to his injuries. I'm a liability now, hunted, marked. But you... You're still invisible to them. Still just a nurse who happened to be in the wrong place. Until I'm not. Exactly. Which is why you need to move fast. Get the file to someone who can use it before they figure out you have it. Lena stopped pacing. And then what? They go to trial? Get slapped with fines and early retirement? If we're lucky, they go to prison. If we're not, he shrugged. At least the truth gets out. At least people know. That's not enough. It has to be. She turned on him, anger flaring. My brother is dead. You've been hunted for 6 years. They've killed, stolen, destroyed lives, and you want me to settle for at least people know? What do you want, Lena? Revenge? I want justice. They're not the same thing. Maybe they should be. Ryan studied her, something like respect flickering in his eyes. You sound like Marcus. Good. A sound outside made them both freeze, a car door slamming, voices. Ryan was on his feet instantly, gun appearing from somewhere under the pillow. Out the back. Now. What about you? I'll buy you time. Go. Ryan, go. She grabbed her backpack and ran for the bathroom window, shoving it open as the front door exploded inward. Gunfire erupted behind her, sharp and deafening, and she threw herself through the window, landing hard on gravel. She scrambled up, sprinting for the parking lot, and didn't look back even when the shooting stopped, even when she heard Ryan's voice shouting her name, even when sirens wailed in the distance. She drove until the motel was a dot in the rearview mirror, until her hand stopped shaking, until the adrenaline faded and left her hollow. Then she pulled over and threw up on the side of the road. When she could breathe again, she checked her phone. 3 missed calls from an unknown number, no voicemails. She sat in the car, engine idling, and stared at the flash drives in her hand. Ryan was right. She needed to move fast, needed to get this to someone who could do something with it. But who? The police were compromised. The military, obviously. Federal agents had already tried to silence her. That left the press. She pulled up her phone, searched for investigative journalists in Silvergate City, found a name that came up over and over. Miranda Cole, senior reporter for the Silvergate Tribune, known for breaking corruption stories, for taking on powerful people. Perfect. Lena dialed the Tribune's main line, asked for Cole, and was transferred twice before a brusque voice answered. Cole? Ms. Cole, my name is Lena Cross. I have information about a military corruption case, high level, provable, and people are trying to kill me for it. A pause. Then, cautiously, I'm listening. Lena exhaled. Not over the phone. Can we meet? When? Tonight, somewhere public. Another pause. There's a diner on 5th and Locust, Hal's. I'll be there in an hour. The line went dead. Lena sat back, heart pounding. This was it, the point of no return. She started the engine and drove toward the city. Hal's Diner was exactly the kind of place she'd expected. Greasy, bright, packed with late-night workers and insomniacs. Miranda Cole was easy to spot. Mid-40s, sharp eyes, blazer over jeans, laptop open on the table. Lena slid into the booth across from her. Lena Cross? Yeah. Cole looked her over, assessing. You look like hell. Thanks. What have you got? Lena pulled out one of the flash drives, set it on the table. Proof that a high-ranking military officer and his network have been trafficking weapons, embezzling funds, and murdering anyone who got in their way, including my brother. Cole's eyes sharpened. Big claim. What's the proof? Encrypted files, financial records, communications, manifests, everything. Can I see it? Not here, too risky, but I can give you the drive. The password is… She stopped. If she gave Cole the password, she lost control, lost leverage. Cole seemed to read her hesitation. Let me guess. You want guarantees. I want this published, everywhere, before they can bury it. And if the files are fake, if this is a setup, they're not. Prove it. Lena hesitated, then pulled out her phone, showed Cole the photo of Marcus's journal entry. My brother was one of the soldiers who uncovered it. He's dead because of it. Cole read the entry, expression unreadable, then looked up. Who else knows about this? The people trying to kill me. Names. I don't know names, just faces, federal agents, military. They've been hunting the guy who helped my brother. She stopped. Saying Ryan's name felt dangerous. He's what? In hiding, barely alive. Not quite a lie. Cole leaned back, thinking. This is a hell of a story, but it's also a hell of a risk. If what you're saying is true, these people have resources. Reach. They'll come after me too. Does that scare you? Cole's mouth twitched into a smile. Honey, I've been doing this for 20 years. I've pissed off everyone from city councilmen to CEOs. If I scared easy, I'd be writing fluff pieces about farmers markets. She tapped the flash drive. But I need verification, independent sources, documents I can corroborate. It's all on there. Then let me see it. Give me the password. Lena's hand tightened around the drive. If I do, and you decide not to run the story, I'll run it. If it's real. Cole's eyes were steady. But I won't print garbage, and I won't let you use me to settle a personal vendetta. So either trust me or find someone else. Lena met her gaze, weighing the risk. Then she said, Marcus's service number, 2278491. Cole wrote it down, pocketed the drive. I'll need 24 hours to verify. You have 12. Lena, 12. Or they'll have me, and you'll have nothing. Cole studied her, then nodded slowly. 12 hours. Don't leave town. She stood, dropped cash on the table, and walked out. Lena sat in the booth, staring at her empty hands, and wondered if she'd just made the biggest mistake of her life. Her phone buzzed. Another unknown number. She answered. Hello? Heavy breathing. Then a voice, distorted, mechanical. You just signed your death warrant, Miss Cross. The line went dead. Lena's blood turned to ice. She looked around the diner, suddenly aware of every face, every person who might be watching. A man in a suit by the counter, a woman in a hoodie near the door. Her phone buzzed again. A photo. Miranda Cole, walking to her car. Then another photo. Cole's license plate. Then a third. Cole's home address. The message was clear. We know where she is. We know what you did. And we can get to her anytime we want. Lena's hand shook as she dialed Cole's number. It rang and rang. Voicemail. Miranda, it's Lena. Don't go home. They know. They're watching you. Call me back. She hung up, threw cash on the table, and ran for the door. Outside, the street was quiet. Too quiet. She scanned the parked cars, the alleyways, saw nothing. But she felt it. The weight of eyes, the tightening noose. She sprinted for her car, fumbling with the keys, and that's when she saw it. A note tucked under the windshield wiper. She grabbed it, hands shaking. Room 418, Grandview Hotel. Midnight. Come alone, or Cole dies. General Thorne. Lena stared at the name. Thorne. She'd heard it before. In Marcus's journal. In Ryan's whispered warnings. Lieutenant General Isaac Thorne. Davies' superior. The man at the top. The man who'd ordered her brother's death. Her phone buzzed one last time. A countdown timer. 2 hours. Lena got in the car and sat there, engine off, staring at the note until the words blurred. Every instinct screamed at her to run, disappear, let Cole fend for herself. But she couldn't. Because if Cole died, the story died, and Marcus would stay buried under lies forever. She pulled out the second flash drive, the backup, and stared at it. Ryan had said keep them separated. If one was compromised, the other was insurance. But insurance only worked if someone knew where to find it. She started the car, drove 3 blocks to a FedEx store still open, and paid cash for an envelope and overnight shipping. She addressed it to the one person she could think of who might actually give a damn, Dr. Kevin Halford at Blackridge Medical Center. Inside, she wrote a note on the back of a receipt. Kevin, if you're reading this, I'm dead or worse. The drive has everything. Password 2278491. Get it to someone who can use it. Please. Lena. She sealed it, handed it to the clerk, and walked out before she could second-guess herself. 1 hour and 40 minutes. The Grandview Hotel sat in the financial district, all polished marble and valet parking, the kind of place where senators held fundraisers and CEOs closed deals. Lena felt like an intruder the moment she stepped through the revolving doors, her jeans and hoodie drawing stares from the concierge. She ignored them, heading for the elevators. 4th floor, room 418. The hallway was empty, silent except for the hum of ice machines. She found the room at the end, door slightly ajar. Her hand went to the taser in her pocket. She pushed the door open. The room was dark except for a single lamp beside the bed, casting long shadows across expensive furniture. A man sat in the armchair by the window, silhouetted, face hidden. "Miss Cross." "Punctual. I appreciate that." The voice was smooth, cultured, the kind that had spent years giving orders and expecting obedience. Lena stepped inside, letting the door close behind her. "Where's Cole?" "Safe. For now." The man leaned forward into the light, and Lena's breath caught. Lieutenant General Isaac Thorne looked exactly like his photos. Silver hair, strong jaw, the kind of face you'd see on recruitment posters. He wore civilian clothes, expensive suit, no tie, and his eyes were the coldest thing she'd ever seen. "You've caused quite a bit of trouble, Miss Cross." "Good." His mouth twitched. "Brave. Or stupid. I haven't decided which." "Where is Cole?" "In protective custody. My people are keeping her comfortable while we resolve this misunderstanding." "There's no misunderstanding. You killed my brother. Your brother died in the line of duty." "Bullshit," Thorne sighed, standing. He was tall, imposing, the kind of presence that filled a room. Marcus was a good soldier, loyal, smart, but he made the mistake of sticking his nose where it didn't belong. He was doing his job. His job was to follow orders, not investigate his superiors. Thorne poured himself a drink from the minibar, didn't offer her one. He and Vance had a chance to walk away. I gave them that chance. But they refused. "So you killed them." "I protected national security." He took a sip, watching her over the rim. "Do you have any idea what's at stake here, Miss Cross? The wars we're fighting, the enemies we face, they don't play by rules. They don't care about ethics or morality. To beat them, we need resources, funding, equipment. And sometimes that means making deals with people your brother would have called monsters. You're the monster. I'm a realist." He set the glass down. "And I'm offering you a choice. Walk away, right now. Forget everything you think you know. I'll make sure you and your family are taken care of. Comfortable, safe. And if I don't, then you'll join your brother." The threat hung in the air, cold and final. Lena's hand tightened around the taser. "You're going to kill me either way." "Not necessarily. You're a civilian, a victim. Killing you creates complications." He gestured to the chair. "Sit. Let's talk like adults." "I'll stand." He shrugged. "Suit yourself. The truth is, Miss Cross, I don't want to hurt you. I want this to go away, quietly, cleanly. You give me the files, I give you Cole, and we all move on with our lives. And the story? Never sees print. Cole will understand. She's been in this business long enough to know when to fold." Lena almost laughed. "You think she'll just drop it?" "I think she values her life more than a byline." Thorne's eyes hardened. "Just like you should." "Except I already sent the files to someone else." His expression didn't change, but something flickered behind his eyes. "Bluffing." "Am I?" He studied her, then pulled out his phone, typed something. 30 seconds later, it buzzed. He read the screen, and his jaw tightened. "FedEx. Overnight to Denver." He looked up. "Dr. Halford, I presume." Lena's stomach dropped. "How the hell?" "We've been monitoring you since you left the motel, Miss Cross. Every move, every call." He pocketed the phone. "The package has already been intercepted." The floor seemed to tilt under her. "Now." Thorne stepped closer. "Give me the other drive, the one in your pocket." She backed toward the door. "No. Don't make this harder than it needs to be. You're going to kill me anyway. Only if you force my hand." She reached for the door handle, and a man stepped out of the bathroom, gun leveled at her chest. The same agent from the hospital. The younger one with the linebacker build. "Don't move," he said quietly. Lena froze. Thorne sighed. "I really hoped it wouldn't come to this." "Where's Cole?" "There is no Cole, not here." "That was bait, Miss Cross. And you took it." He gestured to the agent. "Search her." The agent moved forward, and Lena did the only thing she could think of. She yanked the taser from her pocket and fired. The prongs hit the agent in the chest, and he convulsed, dropping the gun. Lena lunged for it, fingers closing around the grip. Thorne kicked it away, sending it skittering under the bed. She scrambled for the door, yanked it open, and ran. Behind her, Thorne's voice echoed down the hall. "Lock down the building. She doesn't leave." Lena hit the stairwell at a sprint, taking the steps 3 at a time, lungs burning. 4th floor, 3rd, 2nd. The door at the bottom burst open and 2 more agents poured through. She reversed course, climbing back up, muscles screaming. 5th floor, 6th. The roof access was locked. She kicked it, shoulder checked it, but it didn't budge. Footsteps thundered below. She was trapped. Then she saw it. A service elevator at the end of the hall, doors open, maintenance cart inside. She ran for it, hit the button for the basement, and the doors started to close. A hand shot through, stopping them. The older agent from the hospital stepped inside, gun drawn. End of the line. Lena backed against the wall, hands raised. "You don't have to do this." "Actually, I do." He raised the gun. "Nothing personal." "Then you're just as bad as he is." His finger tightened on the trigger, and the elevator lurched, plummeting. The agent stumbled, and Lena grabbed the maintenance cart, shoving it into him. He fired, the shot going wide, punching through the ceiling. The elevator hit the basement with a bone-jarring crash, throwing them both to the floor. Lena scrambled up, kicked the gun away, and ran. The basement was a maze of pipes and storage rooms, dimly lit, concrete walls sweating moisture. She could hear shouting behind her, footsteps, radios crackling. She found a service exit, shoved it open, and emerged into an alley. Cold air hit her face, and she ran. 2 blocks. 3. Her lungs were on fire, legs shaking, but she didn't stop. She found a 24-hour laundromat, ducked inside, and collapsed behind a row of dryers. Her phone was gone, dropped somewhere in the chase. The flash drive was still in her pocket. She pulled it out, stared at it. This tiny piece of plastic. This was what they were killing for. And she had no way to use it, no phone, no contacts, no plan. Just her, a flash drive, and a city full of people who wanted her dead. She closed her eyes, trying to think. Then a voice, quiet and familiar, made her look up. "You look like you could use some help." Miranda Cole stood in the doorway, laptop bag over her shoulder, looking tired but alive. Lena's throat tightened. "How? You called me, remember? Told me not to go home, so I didn't. I've been following you since the diner." Cole stepped closer. "Nice work with the taser, by the way. Very resourceful." "They said they had you." "They lied. Shocking, I know." Cole pulled out her phone. "I've been recording everything, the hotel, the chase. Got some great footage of federal agents trying to murder a civilian." She smiled grimly. "This just became a much bigger story." Lena stared at her. "You followed me into a trap." "I followed the story. You just happened to be the lead." Cole extended a hand. "Come on. We need to get somewhere safe and start writing." Lena took her hand, let herself be pulled up. "They'll come after you." "Let them try." Cole's eyes were fierce. "I've been waiting my whole career for a story like this. I'm not backing down now." They left the laundromat together, slipping into the pre-dawn darkness. And for the first time since this nightmare started, Lena felt something she hadn't felt in days. Hope. But it didn't last. Because when they reached Cole's car, they found it surrounded. Black SUVs, agents, guns. And standing in the center, looking almost disappointed, was Lieutenant General Isaac Thorne. "Miss Cole, Miss Cross, I really must insist you both come with me." Cole's hand shot out, gripping Lena's wrist. "Run." They bolted left, away from the vehicles, away from Thorne's voice calling after them with that infuriating calm. Gunfire didn't follow. Too public. Too many witnesses even at this hour. But footsteps did, pounding the pavement behind them. Lena's lungs screamed as they tore through an alley, Cole surprisingly fast for someone who spent her days behind a desk. They vaulted a chain-link fence, landed hard on the other side, kept moving. "This way!" Cole gasped, yanking her right into a loading dock area. She fumbled with a key card, swiped it against a service entrance. The lock clicked green. They tumbled inside and Cole slammed the door, through the deadbolt. "Where are we?" "Tribune Building, back entrance." Cole was already moving, pulling Lena through a darkened hallway that smelled like printer ink and old coffee. "My office, 3rd floor. We can—" The lights blazed on. They froze. Standing at the far end of the corridor was a security guard Lena didn't recognize, and behind him, 2 men in suits. Cole's face went white. "No, not here. You can't. Miss Cole?" The older of the 2 suits stepped forward, hands visible, non-threatening. "We just want to talk." "Bullshit." Cole grabbed Lena's arm, backing toward the stairwell. "You're with Thorne." "We're with the truth." He pulled out credentials, FBI, not military. Special Agent Marcus Reeves. The irony of the name wasn't lost on Lena. "And right now, you two are in serious danger." "From you." "From him." Reeves gestured toward the exit. "Thorne's people are surrounding this building. You have maybe 3 minutes before they breach, so you can either trust me or you can die proving a point." Cole looked at Lena. "Your call." Lena's mind raced. Every instinct said run, but Reeves's eyes didn't have that flat, dead look the other agents had, and they were cornered anyway. "Talk fast," she said. Reeves nodded. "We've been investigating Thorne for 18 months. Arms trafficking, embezzlement, conspiracy to commit murder. We know what he did to your brother, to Vance, to at least a dozen others, but we can't touch him without proof that'll stand up in court." "We have proof," Lena said. "Had proof. Thorne's people intercepted your FedEx package 20 minutes ago." He looked at Cole. "And your footage from tonight won't be enough. Not against his lawyers." Cole's jaw tightened. "Then what do you want from us?" "The source files, the original encrypted data." Reeves looked at Lena. "The flash drive." She pulled it from her pocket, held it up. "This? That's a copy. We need the master, the one Ryan Vance hid before the ambush." Reeves stepped closer. "He told you where it was, didn't he? Before the motel." Lena's blood went cold. "How do you know about the motel?" "Because we were tracking him, have been for years. Not to kill him, to protect him. He's our witness, our key to bringing Thorne down." "Then where the hell were you when they were shooting at him?" Reeves's expression darkened. "We were 10 minutes out. By the time we arrived, he was gone, but he left us a message. Said he'd passed the location to someone he trusted. Someone Thorne wouldn't see coming." Lena's throat tightened. "He didn't tell me anything." "Yes, he did. You just don't know it yet." Reeves pulled out a tablet, showed her a photograph. Ryan, unconscious in a hospital bed, but not Blackridge. Somewhere else. Somewhere with actual security. "He's alive, barely, but alive, and he keeps saying the same thing over and over. She has his eyes. She'll know." Marcus's eyes. Lena stared at the photo, mind reeling. Ryan had said that in the ER. "You've got his eyes." But what did it mean? An explosion rocked the building. The lights flickered, died, and emergency backups kicked in, bathing everything in red. "That's our cue," Reeves said, grabbing Lena's arm. "Move! Now!" They ran. Up the stairwell, Reeves leading, his partner, a younger woman named Torres, bringing up the rear with her weapon drawn. Cole stayed close to Lena, laptop bag clutched to her chest like armor. Second floor. Third. Fourth. Reeves kicked open a door marked roof access, and they burst out into cold wind and city lights. A helicopter sat on the landing pad, rotors already spinning. "Get in!" Reeves shouted over the noise. Lena hesitated. This could still be a trap, a different kind of cage. Then gunfire erupted from the stairwell behind them, and Torres went down, blood spraying from her shoulder. Lena didn't think. She grabbed Torres under the arms, dragged her toward the helicopter while Cole and Reeves returned fire. They hauled Torres inside, piled in after her, and the helicopter lurched into the air just as Thorne's people burst onto the roof. Lena looked down and saw him standing there, silhouetted against the red emergency lights, watching them escape. He didn't look angry. He looked patient, like he knew this wasn't over. The helicopter banked hard, and Silvergate City fell away below them, a grid of lights against the desert darkness. Cole was pressing gauze to Torres's shoulder, hands shaking but steady, while Reeves spoke rapidly into a radio. "Base, this is Reeves. Package secured, en route to secondary location. ETA, 12 minutes. Static, then a voice. "Copy that? Medical standing by." Lena slumped against the wall, adrenaline draining, leaving her hollow. "Where are we going?" "Somewhere Thorne can't reach." Reeves looked at her. "A federal safe house outside the city. We'll get you cleaned up, debriefed, and then you're going to tell me everything Ryan told you. I already did. He didn't tell me where the master file is. Then we'll figure it out together, he offered a grim smile. Because if we don't, Thorne walks. And everyone who died for this, your brother, Vance's squad, all of it, was for nothing. Lena closed her eyes, exhaustion crashing over her. She'd been running for so long, fighting for so long, she'd almost forgotten what the point was. Justice. Not revenge, not even closure. Just the truth, dragged into daylight where it couldn't be buried anymore. She opened her eyes. Okay, let's figure it out. The safe house was a nondescript ranch 40 miles outside Silvergate, surrounded by scrubland and monitored by enough cameras and sensors to make a prison jealous. Reeves led them inside while agents in tactical gear swept the perimeter. Torres was taken straight to a medical bay. Cole was given a room to work in, laptop and files spread across a table, already typing furiously. And Lena was brought to a conference room where a woman in a dark suit waited. Miss Cross, I'm Deputy Director Carla Hayes, FBI. She didn't offer a hand. Sit. Lena sat. Hayes pulled out a file, flipped it open. Ryan Vance, Staff Sergeant, Special Operations. Declared KYA 6 years ago after an IED incident in Nevada. Except he wasn't dead. He'd gone underground after discovering that his commanding officer, Lieutenant Colonel Davies, was running a trafficking operation with the knowledge and approval of Lieutenant General Isaac Thorne. She looked up. Sound about right? Yeah. Vance spent the next 6 years gathering evidence, hiding it in dead drops across 3 states, staying one step ahead of Thorne's kill teams. We've been trying to bring him in for 18 months, but he didn't trust us. Thought we were compromised. Were you? Hayes' mouth thinned. 2 of my agents were on Thorne's payroll. Both are currently in custody. She tapped the file. Vance finally reached out 3 weeks ago. Said he was ready to testify, but he wanted insurance, wanted the evidence in multiple hands before he surfaced. So he sent me after it. He sent you after the master file. The original. The one with metadata, timestamps, digital signatures, everything we need to prove it's authentic and unaltered. Hayes leaned forward. The copies are useful, but they won't survive Thorne's lawyers. We need the original. Lena rubbed her face, trying to think through the exhaustion. He said the file was in a dead drop. Silvergate City. But he didn't tell me where. Because he couldn't, not directly. Thorne's people were listening, are still listening. Hayes pulled out a recording device, hit play. Ryan's voice, ragged and faint, filled the room. She has his eyes. She'll know, Marcus told her. Told her everything. The recording cut off. Lena's chest tightened. I don't know what that means. Think. What did your brother tell you? About the investigation? The operation? Anything? Nothing. He didn't talk about his missions. He barely talked about the army at all, except... She trailed off. Except what? Lena's mind raced back. Years ago. Marcus home on leave, drunk, rambling about the places he'd been. The things he'd seen. He told me about a church, she said slowly, in Silvergate. Said it was the only place in the city that felt clean. That felt honest. She looked up. St. Anthony's. On the east side. Hayes was already typing. St. Anthony's Catholic Church. Built 1952. Still active. She looked at Reeves. Get a team there. Now. Wait. Lena stood. If you send a team, Thorne will know. He's watching you, waiting for you to lead him to the file. Hayes' expression hardened. Then what do you suggest? I go, alone, quiet. No backup, no surveillance. Just me. Absolutely not. It's the only way. It's suicide. Maybe. Lena met her gaze. But it's also the only chance you've got. Because if Ryan trusted me with this, there's a reason. And it's not because I'm FBI. Hayes stared at her for a long moment, then looked at Reeves. Your call. Reeves studied Lena, weighing the risk. Then he nodded slowly. We wire her. Minimal tech. If anything goes wrong, we pull her out. And if Thorne's people are waiting, then we adapt. Reeves looked at Lena. You sure about this? She wasn't, but she nodded anyway. All right, let's gear you up. An hour later, Lena was back in Silvergate City, driving a nondescript sedan with a wire taped under her shirt and a panic button in her pocket. The sun was rising, painting the streets gold, and she felt exposed despite the early hour. Street. Anthony's sat in a quiet neighborhood, old brick and stained glass, the kind of church that had weathered decades without changing much. Lena parked a block away and walked, hands in her pockets, trying to look casual. The front door was unlocked. Inside, the air was cool and smelled like incense. Rows of pews stretched toward an altar where candles flickered. A priest knelt in prayer, his back to her. Lena's footsteps echoed on the stone floor. The priest turned, old, 70 at least, with kind eyes behind wire-rimmed glasses. "Can I help you, my child?" "I'm looking for something a friend left here." His expression didn't change. "We have many friends who visit. Perhaps you could be more specific?" His name was Marcus Cross. The priest's eyes sharpened. "I remember Marcus. A good man. Troubled, but good." He stood slowly, joints creaking. "He came here often, near the end. Said he needed somewhere to think, somewhere safe." "Did he leave anything? A package, a message, anything?" The priest studied her. "You have his eyes." Lena's breath caught. "He was my brother." "I know." The priest gestured toward the confessional. "He told me about you, said if anyone ever came asking, someone with his eyes, I should trust them." He walked to the confessional, opened the priest's side, and reached behind the partition. When he pulled his hand back, he was holding a small metal box. "He left this 6 years ago. Made me promise to keep it safe until someone came for it." He handed it to Lena. "I think that someone is you." Lena took the box, hands trembling. It was locked, old-fashioned combination lock, 3 digits. "Do you know the code?" The priest shook his head. "He said you would." Lena stared at the lock. 3 digits. What would Marcus use? Their mother's birthday? No, too obvious. His enlistment date? Maybe. She tried it. Nothing. Her own birthday. Click. The box opened. Inside, nestled in foam, was a third flash drive and a photograph. The photo showed Marcus and Ryan in uniform, arms around each other's shoulders, grinning at the camera. On the back, in Marcus's handwriting, "The truth is worth dying for. But living for it is harder. Stay strong, sis." Lena's vision blurred. "Thank you," she whispered to the priest. "May you find the peace he couldn't." She turned to leave and found Thorne standing in the doorway. "Miss Cross, you're becoming predictable." Lena's hand went to the panic button, but Thorne raised a finger. "I wouldn't. Your FBI friends are currently dealing with a bomb threat at their safe house. False alarm, of course, but it'll keep them busy for the next 20 minutes. He stepped inside and 2 agents followed, flanking the exits. "Plenty of time for us to finish our conversation." The priest moved between them. "This is a house of worship. You will not—" One of the agents grabbed him, shoved him aside. The old man hit the pew hard, gasping. Lena lunged to help him, but Thorne caught her wrist. "The box. Now. No." He twisted her arm, and pain shot up to her shoulder. "I'm done asking nicely. Let her go." The voice came from the back of the church. Thorne turned, and his expression shifted. Surprise, then calculation. Ryan Vance stood in the rear doorway, pale and swaying, one hand pressed to his bandaged side. The other held a gun. "Vance, you should be dead." "Yeah, well, I'm stubborn." Ryan's aim didn't waver despite the tremor in his hand. "Let her go." Thorne released Lena, stepped back. "You look terrible. How long before you collapse? 30 seconds? A minute?" "Long enough." "To do what? Shoot me? In a church? In front of a priest?" Thorne smiled. "You're not that far gone, soldier." "Try me." For a moment no one moved. Then Thorne laughed. "You won't, because you're still trying to be the hero, still trying to do the right thing." He looked at Lena. "But she's not. Are you, Miss Cross?" Lena's hand tightened around the box. "She's angry," Thorne continued, "hurt, grieving, and people like that make mistakes, emotional decisions." He took a step toward her. "Give me the box and I'll let you both walk. You have my word." "Your word is shit." "Perhaps, but it's the best offer you'll get." Ryan's gun wavered. "Lena, don't." But Lena was staring at Thorne, at the man who'd killed her brother, who'd ruined lives, who'd stood in front of cameras and shook hands and smiled while bodies piled up behind him. And she realized something. He was right. She wasn't a hero. She was just someone who'd had enough. She threw the box at him, hard. Thorne caught it reflexively, and in that split second, Ryan fired. The shot went wide, punching through a stained glass window, and Thorne's agents returned fire. Ryan dove behind a pew, and Lena hit the floor, crawling toward the priest. Gunfire roared, deafening in the enclosed space. Wood splintered, glass shattered. Lena reached the priest, checked his pulse, alive, just winded, and dragged him toward the altar. Behind her, Ryan was pinned down, blood seeping through his bandages. He fired twice more, forcing the agents back, but he was fading fast. Thorne stood in the center aisle, untouched, opening the box. He pulled out the flash drive, examined it, then smiled. Finally, he looked at Lena. "Thank you, Miss Cross. You've been very helpful." Sirens wailed outside. Thorne's expression didn't change. "Time to go." His agents moved toward him, covering his exit, and Lena knew if he walked out that door, it was over. He'd destroy the evidence, disappear, and no one would ever touch him. She grabbed a candlestick from the altar and threw it. It hit Thorne in the shoulder, and he stumbled. The box fell, the flash drive skittering across the floor. Lena lunged for it. So did one of the agents. They collided, grappling, and Lena's fingers closed around the drive just as the agent's gun came up. Ryan shot him. The agent dropped, and Lena scrambled back, clutching the drive. Thorne was already at the door, his remaining agent pulling him out as federal vehicles screeched to a halt outside. Ryan tried to stand, couldn't, slumped against the pew. "Go! Get him!" But Lena ran to him instead, pressing her hands to his side where blood was pouring out. "Stay with me." "Lena, the drive. Screw the drive, you're dying." "Good." He smiled faintly. "Tired anyway." "Don't you dare." She looked up, shouted toward the door. "Medic! I need a medic!" Agents poured in, weapons drawn, and Reeves was there, kneeling beside her. "Ambulance is coming. Hold pressure." Lena did, hands slick with blood, watching Ryan's face go gray. "You did good," Ryan whispered. "Marcus would be proud." His eyes closed. No, stay awake, Ryan." The paramedics arrived, pushed her aside, started working. She stumbled back, shaking, covered in blood, and Reeves caught her. "Did you get him?" she asked. "Thorne?" Reeves's face was grim. "He's gone. Slipped the perimeter before we could lock it down." Lena wanted to scream, to rage, to break something. Instead, she held up the flash drive, blood-smeared but intact. "Then use this. Finish it." Reeves took the drive carefully, like it was made of glass. "We will." 2 days later, Lena sat in a federal conference room watching monitors as agents executed simultaneous raids across 3 states. Thorne's network was collapsing in real time. Bank accounts frozen, assets seized, co-conspirators arrested. But Thorne himself was still in the wind. "We'll find him," Hayes said, sitting beside her. "It's just a matter of time." Lena didn't respond. She was watching a different monitor, one showing a hospital room where Ryan Vance lay unconscious, tubes and wires keeping him alive. The doctor said he'd survive, but he'd never be the same. Cole appeared in the doorway, looking exhausted but determined. "The story drops tomorrow. Front page, above the fold, simultaneous release with the Washington Post and New York Times. Full expose, names, numbers, everything. Will it stick? With this evidence? Thorne's lawyers can't touch it. Even if he runs, his reputation is destroyed. His network is finished. And Davies? Already in custody, singing like a canary." Cole smiled grimly. "Turns out he's very interested in a plea deal." Lena nodded, numb. She should feel something. Victory, relief, something. But all she felt was tired. Hayes stood. "We're putting you in protective custody. Until Thorne is apprehended, you're still at risk." "For how long?" "However long it takes." Lena looked at the monitors, at the raids, at the empire crumbling. "He's not going to stop, is he?" "No," Hayes admitted. "He's not." "Then neither will I." That night, alone in a safe house bedroom, Lena pulled out the photograph from Marcus's box. Her brother's face, young and alive, frozen in a moment before everything went wrong. She traced his smile with one finger. I got them, she whispered. Most of them. The rest? She swallowed hard. I'll get the rest too. I promise. Her phone buzzed. Unknown number. She almost didn't answer, but something made her. Hello? Static, then breathing. Then Thorne's voice, calm and cold. Impressive work, Miss Cross. You've cost me a great deal. Money, reputation, allies. A pause. But not everything, and certainly not my life. Lena's blood froze. You think you've won, Thorne continued. That justice has been served. But let me tell you what's really going to happen. The trials will drag on for years. My lawyers will file appeals, motions, delays. Some charges will stick. Most won't. I'll serve time, perhaps. A few years in a minimum security facility, if I'm unlucky. You killed my brother. And you've destroyed my career. I'd say we're even. His voice hardened. But here's the thing, Miss Cross. I'm a patient man, and when I get out, and I will get out, I'm going to finish what I started, with you, with Vance, with everyone who stood against me. Then I'll be waiting. Thorne laughed, low and ugly. I'm counting on it. The line went dead. Lena sat in the darkness, phone in her hand, and felt the weight of what she'd started. This wasn't over. It was just beginning. And somewhere in the night, Thorne was planning his next move. Lena didn't sleep that night. She sat on the edge of the bed, staring at her phone, replaying Thorne's words until they lost meaning and became just noise. When dawn broke, she was already dressed. Hayes found her in the kitchen, nursing black coffee that had gone cold an hour ago. You look like hell. He called me. Hayes's expression shifted. When? Last night. Burner phone probably. Untraceable. Lena set down the cup. He's not running, he's planning. We're doing everything we can to locate him. Not enough. Hayes pulled out a chair, sat. Lena, I know you want him in cuffs right now. We all do. But this is a process. The evidence is solid, the warrants are issued, and every law enforcement agency in the country is looking for him. He can't hide forever. He doesn't need forever, just long enough to disappear or retaliate. Lena looked at her. You know he will. Hayes didn't deny it. That's why you're in protective custody. That's why Ryan is under armed guard. We're taking precautions. Precautions didn't save Marcus. The words hung between them, sharp and final. Hayes stood. The arraignment for Davies is this morning. Federal Courthouse, downtown Silvergate. I want you there. Why? Because the world needs to see you. The victim who refused to stay silent, the nurse who brought down a general. Hayes's eyes were steady. You want Thorne to know you're not hiding? Show up. Stand in that courtroom and watch his network burn. Lena thought about it, about sitting in a courtroom surrounded by cameras and lawyers and people who'd spent 6 years pretending her brother didn't matter. Okay, she said. I'll be there. The federal courthouse was a fortress of concrete and glass, ringed by barricades and swarming with reporters. Lena rode in an unmarked SUV with Hayes and Reeves, watching the crowd grow as they approached. Media circus, Reeves muttered. Every network in the country wants a piece of this. Hayes checked her phone. Cole's story hit an hour ago, already trending on every platform. The Post and Times followed up with their own pieces. Thorne's face is everywhere. Lena looked out the window and saw the headlines on phone screens, on tablets, on the giant LED display across the street. Military corruption exposed, general accused of trafficking, murder. Silvergate Tribune breaks massive conspiracy. Nurse uncovers years-long cover-up. Her stomach churned. This was what she'd wanted. The truth out there. Undeniable. Unavoidable. So why did it feel like she'd just painted a target on her back? They entered through a side entrance, bypassing the media scrum, and were escorted to a courtroom already packed with federal prosecutors, defense attorneys, and observers. Davies sat at the defense table in an orange jumpsuit, looking smaller than Lena remembered, diminished. His lawyer was arguing something about jurisdictional issues, but the judge, a stern woman in her 60s, was having none of it. Counselor, your client is accused of 14 counts of conspiracy, 8 counts of arms trafficking, and 6 counts of accessory to murder. Jurisdictional concerns are the least of his problems. Davies's lawyer sat down, defeated. The prosecutor stood. Your Honor, the government is prepared to present evidence recovered from encrypted files provided by a confidential witness. This evidence includes financial records, communications, and manifests directly implicating Lieutenant Colonel Davies in a multi-year criminal enterprise. The judge nodded. Proceed. For the next 2 hours, Lena watched as prosecutors laid out the case. Bank transfers, weapon shipments, emails between Davies and known arms dealers, photos of meetings that never appeared on any official calendar. And through it all, Davies sat silent, face blank. Until they showed the photograph of Marcus. Then his jaw tightened and his hands clenched on the table. The prosecutor held up the image. Corporal Marcus Cross, age 26, killed in what was reported as a training accident, but was, in fact, a targeted execution ordered by the defendant to silence a witness. Davies' lawyer objected, but the judge overruled. Staff Sergeant Ryan Vance, who survived the attack, has provided a sworn affidavit detailing the events of that day. The defendant and his superior, Lieutenant General Isaac Thorne, orchestrated the ambush to eliminate 2 soldiers who had uncovered evidence of their crimes. Lena's vision blurred. She blinked hard, refusing to cry in front of these people. Davies turned in his seat, eyes scanning the gallery, and found her. For a moment, they stared at each other. Then he looked away. The judge spoke. Bail? The government requests remand, Your Honor. The defendant is a flight risk and a danger to witnesses. Agreed. Defendant will be held without bail pending trial. The gavel fell. Next case. Davies was led out in chains, and Lena felt something crack inside her chest. Not satisfaction, not even relief, just exhaustion. Hayes touched her shoulder. You okay? No, but I will be. Outside, the media descended like locusts. Cameras flashing, voices shouting questions. Miss Cross, how does it feel to bring down a military conspiracy? Are you satisfied with today's outcome? Do you have a message for General Thorne? Reeves and Hayes flanked her, creating a buffer, but one reporter broke through, a young woman with a microphone and desperate eyes. Miss Cross, sources say your brother tried to report the corruption before he died. Why didn't anyone listen? Lena stopped. Hayes tried to pull her forward, but Lena shook her off and turned to face the cameras. Because he was just a soldier, just a name on a roster, and I was just a nurse. Nobody important, nobody powerful, nobody who mattered. Her voice was steady, cold. That's what they counted on, that we'd stay quiet, stay invisible. But we didn't, and now the whole world knows what they did. What do you say to General Thorne? Lena looked directly into the nearest camera. I'm not afraid of you. And I'm not stopping until you're in a cell next to Davies. The words echoed across every news channel within the hour. Back at the safe house, Lena collapsed onto the couch while Hayes fielded phone calls and Reeves coordinated security updates. Cole appeared on a video call, looking exhausted but triumphant. You're trending worldwide. The White House just issued a statement calling for a full investigation. The Pentagon is in damage control mode. This is huge. Has anyone found Thorne? Cole's expression sobered. Not yet, but his assets are frozen, his passport's flagged, and Interpol has him on a watch list. He's running out of options. He only needs one. Lena. He's going to come for me, Miranda. You know it. I know it. Cole was quiet for a moment. Then we make sure he doesn't get close. After the call ended, Lena sat in the silence, feeling the walls close in. She'd spent days running, fighting, surviving. Now she was stuck in a safe house, waiting for a man who'd promised to kill her. She hated waiting. Her phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number. Check your email. RV, Ryan. She opened her laptop, logged into her email, found a message from an encrypted address. The subject line, insurance. Inside was a video file. She clicked play. The footage was grainy, shot from a hidden camera. A hotel room. Thorne sitting across from a man Lena didn't recognize. Middle Eastern, expensive suit, cold eyes. Their voices were clear. The shipment arrives next week, the man said. 20 crates. Small arms, ammunition, explosives. Your people will handle distribution? As agreed. Thorne's voice. Payment on delivery. And the other matter? The soldiers who were asking questions? Handled. You're certain? They're dead. The man smiled. Then we have a deal. They shook hands. The video cut off. Lena stared at the screen, heart pounding. This wasn't just evidence of corruption. This was Thorne on camera, admitting to murder, confirming the entire conspiracy. Another message appeared. Found this on Davies' personal server. He was keeping copies. Insurance against Thorne. Use it. RV. Lena forwarded the video to Hayes immediately. 5 minutes later, Hayes burst into the room. Where did you get this? Ryan, he hacked Davies' files. This is everything. A confession. On camera. Hayes was already on her phone. I'm sending this to the AG's office right now. With this, we can issue federal warrants, freeze more accounts, pressure his allies to flip. Will it be enough to find him? Hayes met her eyes. It's enough to bury him, whether we find him or not. The next morning, the video leaked. Lena didn't know who did it. Maybe Hayes, maybe someone at the AG's office, maybe Ryan himself. But suddenly it was everywhere. Every news site, every social media platform. Thorne's face, Thorne's voice, admitting to murder. The reaction was instantaneous and brutal. Congressional hearings were announced. The Secretary of Defense resigned. Military bases across the country were put under investigation, and Thorne's name became synonymous with betrayal. But the man himself remained a ghost. Days passed. Then a week. Lena stayed in the safe house, watching the world react to the story she'd helped break. Ryan was moved to a secure medical facility, still recovering but stable. Cole won a journalism award. Davies' trial date was set. And Thorne stayed hidden. Until he didn't. Lena was in the kitchen when Hayes' phone rang. She watched the deputy director's face go pale. When? Where? Hayes listened, then looked at Lena. Get Reeves, now. Reeves appeared from the other room, weapon already drawn. What's wrong? Thorne just walked into the FBI field office in Phoenix, turned himself in. Lena's stomach dropped. What? 20 minutes ago. He's requesting a deal. Full immunity in exchange for testimony against his co-conspirators. No. Lena was on her feet. No deal. He killed Marcus. He tried to kill me. He doesn't get to walk. Hayes held up a hand. I know, but the decision isn't mine. It's the Attorney General's. And if Thorne's testimony can take down the rest of the network, people we don't even know about yet, they might take the deal. That's not justice. No, it's politics. Lena wanted to scream, to throw something, to tear the room apart. Instead, she grabbed her jacket. Take me to Phoenix. Lena, take me to Phoenix, or I'll drive myself. Hayes and Reeves exchanged a look. Then Hayes nodded. All right, but you're staying in the car. Understood? Lena didn't answer. The flight to Phoenix took 2 hours on a federal jet. Lena spent the entire time staring out the window, watching clouds pass below, trying to calm the rage building in her chest. Thorne was playing them. Again. Turning himself in meant he controlled the narrative, controlled the timing, controlled the deal. And deals meant compromise, meant he might walk. The FBI field office in Phoenix was a concrete cube surrounded by security checkpoints and news vans. Lena sat in the SUV while Hayes and Reeves went inside, her hands clenched so tight her nails drew blood. An hour passed. Then 2. She watched agents come and go, watched lawyers in expensive suits stride through the entrance like they owned the place, watched reporters jockey for position behind the barricades. Finally, Hayes emerged, face grim. She climbed into the SUV. He's refusing to talk unless you're in the room. Lena's blood went cold. What? He says he'll only give his statement if you're present. Says you deserve to hear the truth directly. It's a game. He's trying to control the narrative. Probably, but the AG is willing to play along if it gets us names. Hayes looked at her. You don't have to do this. Lena stared at the building, at the place where Thorne was sitting, smug and safe, trading his confession for freedom. Yes, she said quietly. I do. They escorted her through security, down sterile hallways to an interrogation room with one-way glass. Inside, Thorne sat at a table, hands folded, looking calm, almost serene, like he'd already won. Lena entered, and his eyes found hers. Miss Cross, Thank you for coming. She didn't sit. Talk. Straight to business. I admire that. He leaned back. I assume you've been told I'm offering testimony in exchange for immunity. You're not getting immunity? That's not your decision. He smiled. But I thought you deserved to know the whole truth before the lawyers sanitize it. I know the truth. You're a murderer. Yes, and so much more. He gestured to the chair. Please, sit. She didn't move. He sighed. Your brother was a good soldier, Miss Cross. Genuinely good. The kind who believed in duty and honor and all those pretty words we use to make killing palatable. But he was naive. He thought the world was black and white. Good versus evil. It is. No, it's green. Money. That's the only color that matters. And your brother stumbled into a machine built on green. Billions of dollars moving through channels he couldn't even imagine. Weapons, intel, contracts, all of it feeding a system that keeps this country safe. By selling guns to terrorists? By making deals with lesser enemies to fight greater ones? By doing what's necessary when the rulebook doesn't work? He leaned forward. Your brother didn't understand that, neither did Vance. They thought exposing me would change something, but it won't. Because for every general you take down, there are 10 more waiting. For every deal you burn, there are 100 more being made. This isn't about me, Miss Cross. It's about a system, and the system always wins. Lena's hand shook with rage. You killed him to protect a system? I killed him because he was going to destroy something bigger than himself, bigger than both of us. Thorne's voice hardened. And I'd do it again. The room went silent. Then Lena spoke, voice low and cold. You're right about one thing. The system is bigger than you, which is why it's going to grind you into dust. She turned to the one-way glass. You got all that? Hayes's voice came through a speaker. Every word. Thorne's expression finally cracked. What? Your immunity deal required full cooperation. Truthful testimony. What you just said on camera? Admission to premeditated murder. Justification of criminal conspiracy. Lena leaned on the table. Congratulations, General. You just confessed. Thorne shot to his feet. You tricked me. No, you played yourself. She walked to the door, then paused. Marcus was right about you. You're not a patriot. You're just a coward who hid behind a flag. She left him screaming for his lawyers. Outside, Hayes was grinning. That was beautiful. Is it enough? More than enough. The deal's off. He's going to trial for everything. Hayes clapped her on the shoulder. You just sealed his fate. Lena didn't feel victorious, just empty. But when she stepped outside and saw the reporters, the cameras, the world watching, she straightened her spine. Because this was it. The moment when the invisible became undeniable. A reporter shoved a microphone at her. Miss Cross, what can you tell us about General Thorne's confession? She looked directly into the camera. Justice doesn't negotiate. The words were on every headline by nightfall. Back in Denver, Lena visited Ryan at the medical facility. He was sitting up in bed, color returning to his face, though the scars would never fade. Heard you got him to confess, he said. He got himself to confess. I just gave him the rope. Ryan almost smiled. Marcus would have loved that. Marcus would have hated all of this. She sat in the chair beside his bed. But he'd be glad it's almost over. Almost? Trial's in 3 months. Thorne's lawyers are already filing motions to suppress evidence, dismiss charges, delay proceedings. It's going to be ugly. Let it be ugly, as long as it ends with him in prison. Lena nodded, but something nagged at her. Ryan, when you were hiding those files, did you only put them in 3 locations? His eyes sharpened. Why? Because Thorne's network was huge, and I keep thinking, if he had insurance against Davies, if Davies had insurance against him, who else has copies? Ryan was quiet for a long moment. You think there's someone else out there? Someone still in play? I think we took down the visible pieces, but the machine Thorne talked about, that's still running. So what do? We keep digging. Over the next weeks, Lena worked with Hayes and Cole to trace the remaining threads. Bank accounts that connected to shell corporations. Names that appeared in emails but never in official records. patterns that suggested a network much larger than Thorne's immediate circle. And then they found it. A series of transfers from a defense contractor to an offshore account registered to a trust. The trustee was a lawyer named Gerald Marks. The beneficiary was listed as confidential. But the timing of the transfers matched exactly with shipments Thorne had authorized. Cole pulled up Marks's background. Corporate lawyer, specializes in defense contracts. Client list is classified, but he's represented half the major contractors in the country. Is he connected to Thorne? Not directly, but his firm handled the legal work for 3 of the companies that received those shipments. Cole's eyes widened. He's the middleman, the one who made sure the paperwork looked clean. Hayes made a call, got a warrant, and within hours, federal agents raided Marks's office in Washington, D.C. They found servers, encrypted files, and a safe full of cash and passports under different names. Marks lawyered up immediately, but the evidence spoke for itself. He'd been the architect, the man who built the legal framework that let Thorne's network operate for years, and he had clients beyond Thorne, senators, contractors, foreign officials. The investigation exploded outward. More arrests, more hearings, more headlines. And through it all, Lena watched from the sidelines, feeling the weight of what they'd uncovered. This wasn't just about one corrupt general. It was about a system built to hide corruption, to protect the powerful, to silence the victims. And tearing it down would take more than evidence. It would take relentless, grinding persistence. 3 months later, Lena sat in a courtroom watching Thorne's trial begin. The jury was selected. The prosecution laid out its case. Witnesses testified, former soldiers, accountants, analysts who'd helped trace the money. Thorne's lawyers fought every inch, objected to evidence, cross-examined witnesses, tried to paint their client as a scapegoat for systemic failures. But the video of his confession played on loop, and the jury saw it for what it was. After 2 weeks of testimony, they deliberated for 6 hours. The verdict came back unanimous. Guilty. On all counts. Thorne stood as the judge read the sentence. Life imprisonment. No parole, no deals. He turned and found Lena in the gallery. She didn't smile, didn't gloat. She just stared until he looked away. Outside, Cole was waiting with champagne she'd smuggled past security. To the woman who wouldn't shut up. Lena took the bottle, drank, felt the burn in her throat, but nothing in her chest. Ryan appeared on crutches, thinner but alive. We did it. Marcus did it, Lena corrected. We just finished what he started. Ryan nodded. He'd be proud. Maybe. Or maybe he'd be horrified by what it had cost. The lives lost, the years stolen, the scars that would never fade. But he'd also be glad the truth was out. Hayes approached, phone in hand. Marks just flipped. He's giving up names. More arrests coming within the week. How many more? Dozens, maybe more. This thing goes deeper than we thought. Lena looked at the courthouse, at the reporters still broadcasting, at the people watching from behind barricades. Good. Let it all come out. Every name, every crime. It's going to take years. Then it takes years. Hayes smiled. You planning to stick around for that? Lena thought about it. About going back to nursing, to the quiet life she'd had before all this. But that life was gone. Burned away the moment she'd stepped into that ER and seen Ryan Vance fighting for his life. Yeah, she said, I'm sticking around. That night, alone in her apartment, no longer a safe house, no longer under guard, Lena pulled out the photograph of Marcus, her brother's face, young and alive, frozen in a moment before everything went wrong. She traced his smile with one finger. I got them, she whispered. Thorne, Davies, Marks, all of them. The rest. She swallowed hard. I'll get the rest too, I promise. She set the photo on her nightstand and was about to turn off the light when her phone buzzed. Unknown number. Her stomach tightened. She answered. Hello? Static, then breathing. Then a voice. Not Thorne's, someone else, younger, colder. Impressive work, Miss Cross. You've dismantled quite a lot, but you've also made quite a few enemies. Who is this? Someone who appreciates thoroughness, and someone who wants to offer you a choice. I'm not interested. You will be. Because the network you exposed, it was just one branch, one tree in a very large forest, and now that you've cut it down,
Others are growing in its place. Lena's blood ran cold. What do you want? To see how far you're willing to go.
Because justice, Miss Cross, is a long road, and it's lined with bodies. A pause. Your brothers. Vance's squad. How many more before you decide it's not worth it? As many as it takes. A low laugh. Good. That's what I wanted to hear, because you're going to need that conviction for what comes next. And what's that? You'll see. Soon. The line went dead. Lena sat in the darkness, phone in her hand, feeling the weight of the threat settle over her. Thorne was in prison. Davies was awaiting trial. Marks was cooperating. But somewhere out there, someone else was watching, waiting, planning. And the war she thought was over had only just revealed its next battlefield. She looked at Marcus's photo one more time, then she started making calls. Her first call was to Hayes. I got another message. Someone else. Someone who knows about the network. Hayes was silent for a moment. We've been expecting this. Marks gave us a name during his debriefing, someone he referred to as the broker. Never met face to face. Always communicated through encrypted channels. But according to Marks, this person coordinates between military contractors, foreign buyers, and officials who facilitate the deals. So Thorne wasn't the top. No, he was middle management. The broker is the one who connects everyone. And if they're reaching out to you, Hayes' voice tightened. It means they see you as a threat worth addressing. Or recruiting. Either way, we need to meet. Tomorrow. My office. Lena hung up and sat in the darkness, mind racing. She'd torn down Thorne's operation, exposed Davies, broken Marks, but none of it had touched the person actually running the show, the one who'd built the forest Thorne had just been a tree in. Her phone buzzed again. This time it was a file. No message. Just an attachment. She opened it. Audio recording. Voices she didn't recognize at first, discussing shipment routes, payment schedules, delivery dates. Then one voice she did recognize. Her mother's. Lena's blood turned to ice as she listened to her mother's voice. Calm, businesslike, confirming receipt of a payment. Thanking someone for their discretion. Promising continued cooperation. The recording was dated 3 years ago. Lena's hands shook so hard she nearly dropped the phone. Another message appeared. Your brother wasn't the only cross involved. Think carefully about who you trust. TB, the broker. Lena couldn't breathe, couldn't think. Her mother? The woman who'd cried at Marcus's funeral, who'd kept his room like a shrine, who'd talked about her son like he was a hero? No, it was a lie. Had to be. But the voice was unmistakable. She grabbed her keys and drove. Her mother's house was dark when she arrived, just after midnight. Lena used her key to let herself in, moved through the familiar rooms like a ghost. She found her mother in the kitchen, glass of wine in hand, staring out the window. Lena, what are you doing here? I need to ask you something. Lena set her phone on the table, played the recording. Her mother's face went white. When it finished, the silence stretched like broken glass. Explain, Lena said. Her mother set down the wine, hands trembling. It's not what you think. Then what is it? Insurance. Her mother's voice cracked. After your father died, I had nothing. No pension, no savings. The VA benefits barely covered the mortgage. And then someone approached me, said they could help. Said all I had to do was sign some papers, accept a few payments. I didn't know what it was for. I swear, Lena, I didn't know. You took money from them. I took money to survive, to keep this house, to send Marcus to college before he enlisted. Tears streamed down her face. I thought it was consulting fees, paperwork for veteran support programs. I never asked questions because I needed it too badly. Lena felt sick. Did Marcus know? No, I made sure he never knew. And when he started investigating, when he found evidence, her mother's voice broke completely. I tried to warn him, told him to drop it, but he wouldn't listen. Because you knew what would happen if he didn't. Her mother nodded, sobbing. I thought if he stopped digging, they'd leave him alone. But he kept pushing. And when he died, she looked up, eyes devastated. I wanted to come forward, wanted to tell someone, but they made it clear If I talked, you'd be next. Lena's rage drained away, leaving only exhaustion. So you stayed quiet. To keep you safe. Yes. And the payments? Stopped the day Marcus died. I never took another cent. Her mother reached for her hand, but Lena pulled back. I know I failed him. Failed you both. But I was terrified, Lena. And alone. And I made the wrong choice. Lena stood, unable to stay in the room. I need to think. Lena, please. I said I need to think. She left her mother crying at the table and drove back to her apartment, vision blurred with tears she refused to shed. The next morning, she met Hayes at the FBI office and told her everything. Hayes listened without interruption, then leaned back in her chair. Your mother's not the only one. We've identified dozens of people, widows, veterans, struggling families, who were approached with similar offers. The broker uses them as cover. Legitimate-looking transactions that hide the real money flows. So she's a victim. And a witness. If she's willing to testify, her cooperation could help us trace the payments back to their source. Lena thought about her mother's face, the guilt and fear. She'll testify. But I want protection for her. Full immunity. Done. Hayes pulled out a file. We've been building a case against the broker for months. We have financial records, communication intercepts, testimony from Marks. But we don't have an identity. Every transaction, every message, it's all routed through proxies and shell companies. Whoever this person is, they've spent years staying invisible. Then how do we find them? Hayes smiled grimly. We make them come to us. The plan was simple in concept, brutal in execution. Lena would go public. Again. Bigger this time. A press conference announcing her mother's cooperation and the expansion of the investigation into the broader network. She'd name the broker directly, challenge them to come forward, dare them to stay hidden while their empire collapsed around them, and she'd be bait. They'll come after you, Reeves warned during the briefing. The moment you step in front of those cameras, you become target number one. Good, Lena said. Let them come. The press conference was scheduled for the following week at the federal courthouse in Denver. In the days leading up to it, Lena worked with prosecutors to prepare her statement, coordinated with her mother's lawyer to ensure her testimony was protected, and tried not to think about the fact that she was about to put a target on her entire family. Ryan called the night before. You don't have to do this. Yeah, I do. Marcus wouldn't want you risking your life for this. Marcus didn't want a lot of things. But here we are. She paused. How are you doing? Better. Doctors say I can go home next month, assuming I still have one. You will. We'll make sure of it. Lena. His voice was quiet. Thank you for finishing what we started. We're not finished yet. The morning of the press conference, Lena stood in front of the mirror in her apartment, adjusting the blazer Hayes had insisted she wear. She looked professional, composed, nothing like the terrified nurse who'd stumbled into this nightmare. Her phone buzzed. Unknown number. She answered. What do you want? The broker's voice was different this time. No distortion, just cold, clear, and familiar in a way that made her stomach drop. To give you one last chance to walk away. Not interested. Even if I told you that your brother's death wasn't the accident you think it was? Lena's hand tightened on the phone. I know it wasn't an accident. Thorne ordered the ambush. Thorne pulled the trigger, but I loaded the gun. A pause. Marcus came to me first, you know. Before he went to his superiors, he found evidence of my network and thought I'd help him expose it. Thought I was someone he could trust. Who are you? Someone who's been watching you since the beginning. Someone who knows you won't stop. And someone who's tired of watching good people destroy themselves over principles that don't change anything. They changed Thorne's life. He's in prison. And 10 others have already taken his place. That's how this works, Miss Cross. You cut off one head, 2 grow back. You expose one network, 3 more form. You think you're fighting for justice, but all you're doing is rearranging deck chairs on a sinking ship. Then why are you calling? Because unlike Thorne, I don't underestimate you. And unlike the others, I know when to cut my losses. The voice softened. Walk away now. Take your mother, disappear. I'll make sure no one follows. You get to live. I get to rebuild. Everyone wins. except Marcus. Marcus made his choice. Now make yours. Lena looked at her reflection, at the woman who'd stopped being invisible the moment she'd decided the truth mattered more than safety. I choose the press conference. She hung up. 2 hours later, she stood behind a podium in the federal courthouse, cameras pointed at her from every angle, reporters packed into every available space. Hayes stood beside her, along with Reeves and the U.S. Attorney for Colorado. Lena stepped to the microphone. 6 months ago, my brother was killed covering up a military corruption scandal. I was just a nurse. Nobody important. Nobody who mattered. And the people responsible counted on that. Counted on me staying quiet, staying invisible, staying in my lane. She paused, letting the words settle. But I didn't. And because of that, Lieutenant General Isaac Thorne is in prison. Lieutenant Colonel Davies is awaiting trial. Gerald Marks is cooperating with federal investigators. And the network they built, the one that trafficked weapons, stole millions, and murdered anyone who got in the way, is being dismantled piece by piece. The cameras flashed. Reporters scribbled notes. But the work isn't done. Because Thorne and Davies weren't the top. They answered to someone else, someone who coordinates between contractors, foreign buyers, and corrupt officials. Someone who stayed hidden for years while their network destroyed lives. She looked directly into the nearest camera. To the person they call the broker, I know you're watching. I know you think you're untouchable, but you're wrong. Because every transaction you've made, every message you've sent, every person you've used, we're tracing it. And when we find you, and we will find you, you're going to face the same justice Thorne is facing. She stepped back from the podium. The room erupted with questions, but Hayes stepped forward to field them, and Lena was escorted out through a side door. Reeves was waiting in the hallway. That was one hell of a challenge. Good. I want them angry. Angry people make mistakes. Or they get desperate. Either way, we'll be ready. They weren't. The attack came 3 hours later while Lena was being transported back to a secure location. 2 vehicles, black SUVs, professional, coordinated, boxed in her convoy on the highway outside Denver. Gunfire erupted. The driver swerved, tires screaming, and Reeves was shouting into his radio while return fire shattered windows. Lena hit the floor, hands over her head, ears ringing from the noise. The SUV spun out, slammed into a guardrail, and stopped. Reeves hauled her out of the wreckage, weapon drawn, firing at the approaching vehicles. 2 more agents formed a perimeter, but they were outgunned and outmanned. 1 agent went down, then another. Reeves grabbed Lena's arm. Run, now! I'm not leaving you. Go! She ran. Into the scrubland beside the highway, legs pumping, lungs burning, gunfire chasing her. She could hear shouts behind her, footsteps, the crack of bullets hitting rocks. She dove behind a boulder, gasping for air, and pulled out her phone. No signal. She was alone. Footsteps approached, slow and deliberate. Lena looked around desperately for a weapon, for an escape route, for anything. A voice called out, "Miss Cross, you're making this harder than it needs to be." She recognized the voice from the phone calls. The broker. She stayed silent, pressed against the rock. "I gave you a chance to walk away. You chose this." A figure appeared around the boulder. A woman, mid-50s, gray hair pulled back, expensive suit, calm expression. And Lena recognized her. Senator Patricia Calloway, Armed Services Committee, high-profile advocate for military funding and defense contracts, the woman who'd given the eulogy at Marcus's funeral. Lena's breath caught. "You?" Calloway smiled. "Me. You spoke at his funeral. You looked my mother in the eye and called him a hero." "He was a hero, just a foolish one." Calloway raised a gun, aiming it at Lena's chest. "And now you're going to join him." Sirens wailed in the distance. Calloway's expression didn't change. "We have time." "For what?" "For you to understand why this was necessary." She gestured with the gun. "Stand up." Lena stood slowly, hands visible. "Your brother found evidence that would have exposed not just Thorne's operation, but dozens of others. Contracts worth billions. Alliances that keep this country safe. He thought he was fighting corruption, but what he was really doing was destabilizing the entire defense infrastructure. By stopping illegal weapons sales? By disrupting carefully balanced arrangements between allies and assets. The world isn't clean, Miss Cross. It's messy. And sometimes the only way to maintain order is to work with people your brother would have called enemies. You're insane. I'm pragmatic, and I've kept this country safe for 20 years by making deals your brother's idealism couldn't comprehend. Calloway's finger moved to the trigger. But you're just collateral damage. The shot rang out. But it wasn't Calloway who fired. Ryan Vance stood 10 feet away, rifle raised, blood spreading across his shoulder from where he'd torn his stitches. Calloway's gun fell from her hand as she collapsed, clutching her leg where Ryan's shot had hit. "Lena, move!" Ryan shouted. She ran to him as federal vehicles screeched to a halt on the highway above. Agents poured down the embankment, weapons drawn, surrounding Calloway. Hayes appeared, face pale. "Are you hurt?" "No, but she—" Lena looked at Calloway, now being handcuffed by agents. "She's the broker." "I know. We traced the call you got this morning. Led us right to her." Hayes knelt beside Calloway. "Senator Patricia Calloway, you're under arrest for conspiracy, murder, arms trafficking, and about a dozen other charges I'm going to enjoy reading to you." Calloway looked up at Lena, blood seeping through her fingers. "This won't change anything. The network will survive. It always does." Lena stepped closer. "Maybe, but you won't." Ryan was rushed to a hospital, his reopened wounds requiring emergency surgery. Lena sat in the waiting room for 6 hours while doctors worked to repair the damage. When they finally let her see him, he was pale but conscious. "You're an idiot," she said. "Yeah, well, you're stubborn." He managed a weak smile. "We make a good team." "How did you even know where to find me?" "Been tracking your location since the press conference. Figured you'd need backup." He winced. "Didn't expect to need it that badly." "You saved my life." "You saved mine first. We're even." She sat beside his bed, exhausted beyond measure. "It's really over now. Calloway, Thorne, Davies, Marks, all of them in custody. The network's broken. For now." "For now," she agreed, "but at least we proved they can be broken." The trials began 3 months later. Calloway's arrest had triggered a cascade of investigations across the military-industrial complex. Contractors were raided, bank accounts frozen, officials from 3 different countries arrested on related charges. The media called it the biggest corruption scandal in modern military history. Lena called it unfinished business. Because even with Calloway, Thorne, Davies, and Marks all facing life sentences, she knew there were others. People who'd escaped. People who'd covered their tracks well enough to avoid prosecution. But she also knew something else. She'd proven they could be touched. The trial itself was a spectacle. Every major network covered it. The evidence was overwhelming. Financial records, recordings, testimony from cooperating witnesses, including Lena's mother, who'd been granted full immunity in exchange for her statement. Lena watched her mother take the stand, voice shaking but steady, and detail every payment she'd received, every document she'd signed, every lie she'd been told. The defense attorneys tried to discredit her, but Hayes' team had corroborated everything. And when her mother stepped down, she looked at Lena with tears in her eyes. Later, in the courthouse hallway, they stood facing each other. "I'm sorry," her mother whispered, "for everything." Lena wanted to stay angry, wanted to hold on to the betrayal and hurt, but she was tired of carrying it. "I know," she said finally, "and I'm trying to understand. It's going to take time." "I have time, however much you need." They didn't hug, didn't cry, just stood there in the fluorescent light of the hallway, 2 people trying to find their way back to each other after years of lies. It wasn't forgiveness. Not yet. But it was a start. Calloway's lawyers tried everything, claimed national security privilege, argued that the deals were sanctioned, attempted to paint her as a patriot, making hard choices. The prosecution countered with victims. Families of soldiers who'd died, workers who'd been laid off while executives pocketed millions, communities destroyed by the weapons Calloway's network had trafficked, and they played the recording of Calloway admitting to Marcus's murder. The jury didn't buy the defense. After 6 weeks of testimony, they deliberated for 2 days. The verdict? Guilty on all counts. Calloway showed no emotion as the sentence was read. Life imprisonment, no possibility of parole. But when she was let out in chains, she looked at Lena one last time. "You think you've won, but there are things in motion you can't even imagine. People you'll never reach, and they'll remember what you did here. Lena met her gaze. Good. Let them remember. Let them know that nobody's untouchable anymore. Outside the courthouse, the media frenzy was deafening, but this time, Lena didn't run from it. She stood at the microphone, Cole beside her, and spoke. For 6 years, I believed my brother died in an accident. For 6 years, the people responsible counted on me accepting that lie. And for 6 years, they were right, because I was nobody. Just a nurse, just a sister, just someone who didn't matter enough to ask questions. She paused, looking at the cameras. But I started asking, and I didn't stop. And because of that, the people who killed my brother, who killed dozens of others, who stole billions, who corrupted everything they touched, are going to spend the rest of their lives in prison. A reporter shouted a question. What's next for you, Miss Cross? Lena thought about it, about going back to nursing, to the quiet life she'd once had. But that person was gone, burned away in warehouse shootouts and interrogation rooms and courtrooms where she'd stared down the people who'd thought she was too small to matter. I'm starting a foundation, she said, for families of service members who died under suspicious circumstances, for whistleblowers who need protection, for anyone who's been told they're too insignificant to fight back. What will you call it? She looked at Ryan, standing at the edge of the crowd on crutches, but standing nonetheless. The Marcus Cross Foundation, because my brother started this fight, and I'm going to make sure it doesn't end with him. The announcement made headlines within hours. Donations poured in. Lawyers volunteered their time. Former service members reached out with their own stories of corruption and cover-ups. And Lena, the nurse who'd been invisible for so long, became the face of a movement. Hayes helped secure the initial funding through seized assets from Callaway's network. Ryan joined as director of investigations, using his military background and contacts to vet cases. Cole became communications director, handling media and publicity. And Lena's mother, seeking redemption, volunteered to help coordinate family support services. They worked from a renovated office building in Denver, walls lined with photographs of victims, whiteboards covered in case notes, phones ringing constantly with new tips and requests for help. It was exhausting, overwhelming, sometimes heartbreaking, but it mattered. 6 months after Callaway's conviction, Lena stood in front of the building, a plaque beside the door reading, "The truth is worth fighting for." Ryan was there, finally off crutches, along with Cole, Hayes, and Lena's mother. You ready? Ryan asked. Lena looked at the building, at the people gathering for the opening ceremony, at the reporters documenting it all. Yeah, I'm ready. Inside, the walls were lined with photographs. Marcus, the other soldiers who'd died, the families still fighting for answers, and in the center, a mission statement Lena had written herself. We were told we didn't matter, that our voices were too small, our questions too insignificant, our losses too commonplace to deserve justice. We were told to stay quiet, stay invisible, stay in our place. We refused. This foundation exists for everyone who's been told they don't matter, for everyone who's been silenced, for everyone who's been invisible. You matter. Your voice matters, and we will fight for you. The ceremony began. Speeches were made. Donations were announced. Plans were revealed for investigations, legal support, advocacy work. Senators attended, the honest ones, the ones who'd been horrified by Callaway's betrayal. Military officials who wanted to prove not everyone in uniform was corrupt. Families who'd waited years for someone to believe them. And through it all, Lena stood at the front, no longer invisible, no longer dismissed. Just a woman who'd refused to accept the lie. When the ceremony ended and the crowds dispersed, Lena found herself alone in her new office. She pulled out the photograph of Marcus, the one that had sat on her nightstand for 6 years, and placed it on her desk. We did it, she whispered. Not the way you wanted, not the way either of us planned, but we did it. A knock on the door. Hayes stood there, file in hand. First official case, she said, handing it over. Marine killed in a helicopter crash 2 years ago. Family says maintenance records were falsified. Local authorities won't investigate. Lena opened the file, scanned the details. Another family destroyed by lies. Another truth buried. What do you need from me? Permission to assign resources. This could take months, maybe years, and it might not lead anywhere. Lena looked at the photograph of the dead Marine. Young, smiling, someone's son, someone's Marcus. Do it, whatever it takes. Hayes nodded and left. Lena sat at her desk, surrounded by files and photographs and evidence of all the injustices still waiting to be uncovered. It should have felt overwhelming. Instead, it felt right. Because this was who she was now. Not the invisible nurse, not the grieving sister. The person who fought back. That night, after everyone had gone home, Lena walked through the empty office, turning off lights, checking locks. She paused at the wall of photographs, all those faces looking back at her. Her phone rang. Unknown number. She almost didn't answer, almost let it go to voicemail. But something made her pick up. Miss Cross? A young woman's voice, scared. My name is Sarah Bennett. My husband was killed 3 years ago in a training accident, but I found emails on his computer, messages he wasn't supposed to have. I think it wasn't an accident. I think someone killed him. Lena's grip tightened on the phone. Tell me everything. And as Sarah Bennett's story poured out, another cover-up, another family destroyed, another truth waiting to be uncovered, Lena took notes and felt the familiar fire building in her chest. The fire that had driven her from that ER to Thorne's trial to this moment. The fire that said, not anymore, never again. When the call ended, she added Sarah's name to the case list, cross-referenced it with known contractors and military bases, started building the investigation before the file even officially existed. Because that's what she did now. She fought, not with guns or violence or the kind of power Thorne and Calloway had wielded, but with persistence, with documentation, with the refusal to let truth stay buried. And she was good at it, better than she'd ever been at staying quiet. Months turned into a year. The foundation grew. More cases, more families, more victories, and more setbacks, and more late nights staring at evidence until her eyes blurred. Ryan recovered fully, though he still limped when it rained. He ran investigations with military precision, following leads that others had abandoned, pushing when authorities tried to stonewall. Cole's articles kept the foundation in the public eye, ensuring that the pressure never let up, that the people in power knew they were being watched. And Lena's mother, slowly rebuilding trust, became the heart of the family support network, counseling people who'd been where she'd been, offering understanding to those who'd made terrible choices out of fear and desperation. It wasn't perfect. They didn't win every case. Some investigations hit dead ends. Some families never got the answers they deserved. But they tried. Every single time they tried. And sometimes that was enough. 2 years after the foundation opened, Lena was invited to testify before Congress, a special committee investigating military corruption and oversight failures. She sat at the witness table, cameras pointed at her, senators on both sides of the aisle watching, and told them everything about Marcus, about the network, about the families still waiting for justice, about the system that had failed them all. The problem, she said, looking directly at the committee chair, isn't just individual corruption. It's a culture that protects the powerful and dismisses the powerless, that treats whistleblowers as threats instead of heroes, that buries inconvenient truths rather than confronting them. One senator leaned forward. What would you recommend we do? Stop treating military families like they should be grateful for table scraps. Start holding officers accountable at every level. Create independent oversight that can't be influenced by the same people it's investigating. She paused. And listen when people like my brother try to tell you something's wrong, before they end up dead. The hearing made headlines. Reforms were proposed. Some passed. Others stalled in committee. But the conversation had shifted. People were paying attention. And the invisible were becoming harder to ignore. 3 years after that first press conference, Lena stood in Arlington National Cemetery at Marcus's grave. She'd visited dozens of times, but this time was different. Ryan was with her. So was her mother, Cole, Hayes, Reeves, all the people who'd fought beside her. We're dedicating a memorial, she told Marcus's headstone, at the foundation, for all the soldiers who died exposing corruption. Your name will be first. She placed flowers on the grave, not roses, but wildflowers, the kind Marcus used to pick for their mother when he was little. I miss you, she said quietly, every day, and I'm sorry it took your death for me to find my voice, but I promise you, I'm using it. And I won't stop until the people who did this to you, to all of you, can't hide anymore. The wind rustled through the trees, And for a moment, Lena could almost imagine it was Marcus, listening, approving, telling her she'd done enough. But she knew better, because there would always be another case, another family, another truth waiting to be uncovered. And she would be there, not as a victim, not as someone too small to matter, but as Lena Cross. Nurse turned crusader, sister turned advocate. The woman who'd proven that justice doesn't require power, just stubbornness, and the refusal to stay silent. That evening, back at the foundation, she opened her email and found hundreds of messages, requests for help, offers of support, stories of injustice that needed telling. She could have felt overwhelmed. Instead, she felt purpose. Because this was her life now. Not the one she'd planned, not the quiet existence she'd once accepted, but the one she'd chosen when she'd decided Marcus's death wouldn't be in vain. She opened the first email and started reading. And somewhere, in a prison cell, Isaac Thorne sat alone, stripped of his rank and reputation, facing the rest of his life behind bars. In another cell, Patricia Calloway did the same. Their network was broken, their empire destroyed, by a nurse who'd refused to be invisible. And that, Lena thought as she worked late into the night, was justice. Not perfect, not complete, but real, and worth every fight it had taken to get here.